Hey, Digital Wildcatters, welcome to another exciting episode of BDE, Big Digital Energy, here with my solo partner in crime, Kirk Coburn.
Wow, I have a lot, huge shoulders to climb aboard and
I got
replicate.
A visual. We don't need to go there. That was bad. I know you've been in Nantucket all summer, but you can just leave it there. So how was it up there?
It's great. It was hot. It was 80 degrees. It got up to 80 degrees, and people are like, I'm dying. But I spent this weekend in Houston, and it is hot. I mean, it's so different. So glad to be back. Glad to be indoors.
Yeah.
It's good to be here.
So I took the kids to Rome. We were there 5 days.
I saw that.
Oh, it was amazing. It was great. It was cool being a tourist and all. They don't have the air conditioning infrastructure there.
No.
It was just miserable because you go to a restaurant and they'd say inside or outside. You go, oh, inside. You get in there,
it's hotter.
Really hot, yeah.
It's probably hotter because there's no airflow, right?
Yeah, and they're sitting there telling you, no, we got it blasting. But
it's just air. They're just blowing air. There's no air conditioning.
They're just blowing air. That being said, Friday night, Saturday night, back-to-back Thomas Rhett concerts this weekend.
Really?
He's epic.
So you went back-to-back?
Back-to-back. So Friday he was in town. I took daughter Sarah, because she's the one kid that hadn't met him yet. See how I just dropped in that name? Name drop right there.
What a baller.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, took him to the show, or took Sarah to the show. She got to meet him. He is such a girl dad.
Really?
He's got 4 girls. Immediately walks up, I'm Thomas Rhett, Sarah Yates. Immediately hugging her. How are you doing, sweetie? Just total girl dad.
What a performer. I love it.
Best guy on the planet. And then me and the girlfriend drove to Austin and saw him Saturday night in Austin, which was a lot of fun.
And which show was better?
He brought it both nights.
Okay.
He brought it both nights. So,
where did he play in Austin? What was the venue?
Moody Center.
Okay.
Where the Texas basketball team plays on campus. Yeah,
that's pretty good.
It was really cool. So the interesting thing is Thomas Rhett's day-to-day manager is a British guy named Harry. Great dude, all this. So he's kind of the babysitter, right? You go backstage, Harry's kind of in charge of you. And so Harry and the girlfriend, of course, both being British, are talking shop all night.
Did they speak in an accent that you couldn't pick up?
An accent. They said,
words that don't make sense. Yes.
That I had no idea. Plus, they were talking about places I didn't even know existed on the planet. So they do that. And then TR shows up. And anyway, we go watch a little.
Do you call him TR?
Not to his face.
Okay, just checking.
But I think that's what everybody calls him.
TR. Got it.
And then we went and watched some Cole Swindell together, side stage, all this. And so anyway, I have Harry and Thomas Rhett there because the girlfriend ran off to the bathroom or something. And I go, all right, what do you guys think? And Thomas Rhett's like, oh, she's so cool. This is great, blah, blah, blah. Harry's like, I'm more afraid for her.
I would. We all are.
Yes.
I think we've tried to talk to you about that.
Yes,
but
I know. Fair enough.
I actually talked to her about it, but
fair
enough. Right?
It's all good. It's all good. It's not informed, or she is informed, I guess.
Actually, she spent enough time to know by now.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. All right. So what happened in the last week? Number one, oil. We hit 83. I think it's at 82 right now. I think I will play Mark. Or do you want to play Mark?
And you play Mark because clearly I can't do that.
Oh, dude. I can get grumpy.
By the way, I mean, where is Mark? We need to.
I don't know.
I don't either.
Do we need to set a reminder on his phone?
I think
beep, beep.
I think he's getting older, maybe early set Alzheimer's coming in. We don't know, but I think he forgot today.
I think he forgot.
We miss you, Mark.
We do miss you. I will try to be grumpy and analytical. So, oil hit 83. We saw the easing of recession fears. That's happened. Big freaking draw. Although Mark wouldn't have said freaking.
He would never say freaking. It's not his,
that's true.
His repertoire.
15 million barrels last week. Mm-hmm. And it really looks like the Saudis and the Russians taking their barrels off the market are starting to show up in inventory. So it's starting to get real. So we saw $83 oil. What say you, Kirk?
I mean, what did we say last week? Did we predict a week ahead oil prices, or was that for September?
I forget what we were saying. I was saying we were going to be sluggish until the winter, and if we had a cold snap, that's when we'd see the pop.
I think these are just little dips. I mean, I'm glad to see 83.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me, but there's nothing. I mean, it's more of the same as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's kind of bouncing around. I think with what people never understand is you don't budget based on a 10-day run in oil price.
Ever.
You know, I mean, you've got to have a 3-year view.
At a minimum.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in the shale revolution, you at least get your money back if you drill a good enough well, kind of year and a half or so ish. But you got to have a good view.
But if the future, as someone was laughing with me yesterday, if the future of oil and gas is going to move to deep water, all these shale guys are like, man, all of the engineers were telling me, like, we only know shale. What happens if we get repurposed to deep water? Which these projects are a minimum 25 years, maybe more. They're not looking at 10-day oil prices. They're looking at long-term oil prices.
Yeah. I did do one thing. So I was on the Richardson Bar website, and I was pulling it up, looking at where oil price was this morning, and it was flirting around 82. But this was kind of an interesting stat I'll throw at you and get your take on it, and you can tell me whether this is intuitive to you or maybe it's kind of surprising. When you look at the stock price return over the last year, and then we're going to look over the last month. So with the majors, over the last year, they're up a little over 17%. Over the last month, they're up about 4%. Large caps are up over the last year just above 13%. But over the last month, they've been up just over 12%. And then it's even more magnified when you look at the small caps. Over the last year, they've been up about 7%.
Right.
But over the last month, they've been up just over 12%. So
I mean, it almost seems that the smaller the company is tracking real oil prices. I mean, the big guys, they're involved in so many other things besides just oil.
yeah.
But even the large caps, the small caps, they just do one thing. And so almost oil prices are being shown through the small and large caps versus the majors. It seems that way.
Yeah. No, and it still just baffles me, and I've said this my whole career. Why are they trading on the basis of current month oil prices as opposed to maybe a 3 or 5 year strip? But
wait a minute, Chuck. I was taught in business school that these are based on expectations. But when I always ask the question, well, who are you talking about? And they're like, well, the market. Well, who's the market?
yeah,
I've never been able to figure out who that person is, and I'm trying to find the market. And if you find that person, let me know.
and what Josh Young, who's over at Bison, will say, because he kind of said this when he came on the podcast about 3 or 4 weeks ago, the market for smaller oil and gas companies, incredibly unsophisticated, not very institutional, retail in nature, and thus his outperformance is he just studies it more than the average investor. And there's probably some truth to that. I've always been an efficient market guy, and the price is right and all, but if you have somebody really smart focused on something that can't be held by a lot of institutions because of ESG reasons and all that, okay. I was starting to buy that while we were talking.
I was with an executive of a small cap over the weekend, and he said a few interesting comments. One, he says, the job here is pretty cush. So if you're publicly traded and you're small, the job is cushy.
Okay.
And we're going to get to that later because it's interesting what's happening with recruitment. So they're paying more and more to keep whoever is in the job now. They're being paid more and more to keep good talent. But secondly, he said, as a small cap, he's like, you've always got to be looking over your shoulder because we could get sold tomorrow and be out of a job. So I was like, interesting. You're getting paid well, job's cushy, but you could be out of a job tomorrow.
Everybody says oil and gas CEOs are so stupid. I have always said they are the most sophisticated energy investors on the planet. They take cash every year in salary and bonus.
Absolutely.
They only take options for equity exposure. None of them are cutting checks to buy into the company. And they always reprice their options at the downside.
You have to.
Exactly. They're the best investors on the planet. That's the way you should play.
I was reading about how all these corporations are trying to downsize or cut their jet programs. If you're in oil and gas, you have to keep the jet because you sell the jet fuel, right? So you can't cut your own jet program.
Well, it's more economic to get to the field in
Absolutely.
the middle of the Bakken. We've got to fly in.
And for safety reasons, you should, the CEOs have to fly, even when they're flying for family reasons, they have to fly on the jet. I love that.
One of the single greatest jet stories in E&P world is Natural Gas Partners does the Mesa deal where they recapitalize and they kick Boone Pickens out and all. And so this deal all gets done, and Boone goes away. And about, 3 or 6 months later, Boone pops up and says, "You guys owe me $5 million for some reason," and pissed Ken Hirsch off. Ken is just like, "Screw Boone! What the hell? That's BS. That's not the way you read it." So the way Ken Hirsch countered it was, "Hey Boone, you had said these jets were so important to Mesa, and you had said they were worth $10 million. We'll just give you the jets and fulfill that $5 million thing we owe you. How's that?" And Boone's like, "No, I'll take the cash."
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Anyway, that's great. All right. Story 2. Just to prove that the world has been listening to BDE, and for a while there we were doing a really good job of breaking down the different countries in Europe. The backdrop story there, I know everybody's heard this, but we'll say it again real quick. The girlfriend's European. She has chided us somewhat for treating Europe as a uniblock. And so for about 10 to 12 weeks there, we took a different country. We broke it down, their energy profiles.
Right.
And I think one thing that stood out to us that we didn't appreciate, or at least for me, is France and their nuclear power was in effect a battery for Europe.
Absolutely.
They were exporting power even across the ship channel to England, all over the place. Well, this summer, and we missed this story, I just saw it this weekend, but this summer, France passed a pro-nuclear bill. It speeds up construction of more nukes, which had previously been off the table. It got rid of the 50% cap on nuclear power that was their target.
Right.
Remember we reported on that? They're currently at 75-80% nuke power of their power usage. They were trying to get to 50. Off the table now. And it strengthened the penalty for those illegally entering a nuke plant. So you go to jail now for 2 years if you're one of those idiot protesters that jumps the fence.
I mean, it's interesting. France has never been known as like a leader in terms of energy policy for the rest of
period. Let's be real.
However, I think this is going to set a trend because what we're seeing is economics are starting to play back into common sense, into the market. So we're seeing France say, "Hey, we're going to remove that 50% cap. We're going to speed up nuke development," which is interesting. And maybe the rest of Europe will take note because if that actually drops the price of energy for the French citizens, what are the rest of the nations around them going to do?
Well, it's twofold. It's one, it's economics, but it's also dispatchable power. It's reliability.
Baseload. Absolutely.
It's baseload. And there's got to at least be a portion of a recognition in there that, hey guys, we can't run a manufacturing business if the wind doesn't blow.
Absolutely. I think it's great.
So,
this is real interesting to watch.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And what we ought to do is figure out Germany's reaction to it because they're the ones
that's who matters the most, right?
Yeah, gone the opposite way. And wouldn't it just be irony of all irony if somehow France doing this and exporting baseload power to Germany allows them not to lose all their manufacturing, like we talked about last week, how
right.
This is going to fall out, and then the Germans get all high and mighty about their renewables.
I mean, I've spent some time looking at the hydrogen business as I've got a startup in that space. What I'm finding interesting is Germany is sort of if you want to sell clean hydrogen, Germany's the market that will buy it because energy prices are high. It would be interesting to see if Germany does a few things. One is maybe invest in technology to make coal clean because they have so much lignite. I know it's real dirty coal, but they have an abundance of lignite coal. Why don't they leverage it? And that's cheap baseload power, by the way. I'm curious. The cheapest.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Germany go reinvest there? Secondly, the way to do that is to say, well, our partners in China are doing it because
Exactly. There we go. So that'll bear watch. That will bear watching over it comes. All right. I love this next article, and I don't even know what we're going to say about it, but I'll just start talking about it. Collins sent around an article called "We're Changing the Clouds." And basically, the backdrop of the article is the UN International Maritime Organization in 2020 passed rules, in effect, getting rid of sulfur in ships. So ship sulfur pollution worldwide is down like 80%. So air quality is up. But what's been wild about it is it's lessened the effect of the sulfate particles that come with that pollution that seed and brighten up these low-level reflective clouds that the ships. So basically, trailing a ship, they create clouds. And that was actually very reflective and had a cooling effect. And what the research they're doing now says that cooling effect may even have been 2x what we thought it was.
Really?
And it's warming the planet, and the Atlantic Ocean is now warmer than supposedly it's ever been or been in a long time. And they're attributing it to the fact you don't have these clouds anymore that in effect provided cover for the Atlantic Ocean, which is just crazy.
I mean, that's interesting. Who would have thunk that that's the result of reducing sulfur content in ship fuel? However, interesting enough, I always sort of look at these different monikers. One is remembering, like, friends that live in Florida, especially the orange farmers, like the freeze line is increasingly moving up further north. And it's interesting to see, like, a friend of mine lives in Vero Beach, and like Vero Beach used to be, part of the climate where you could grow oranges all year round, but now in Vero Beach,
it was the demilitarized zone.
Yeah, there's freezing goes on, and so you lose your orange crops. So you have to go further and further south to grow oranges. Similar with my time in Nantucket, I always figure out, because I surf with a wetsuit in June because it's too cold, the water temperature. This summer, I was in the water without a wetsuit in June. So the water does seem to be getting warmer and warmer. Now, I don't know what that means. I didn't realize it was because of the ships that are passing through the night are not providing cloud cover, but that is an interesting piece, something we should look at.
Well, and the thing I hope we take away from it is second and third order effects on all of this. We just need to be really careful about. We need to be thoughtful about, because Colin says this more eloquently than I do, but he goes, I always love our bravado to think we can actually control the climate.
Well, it's kind of, now that I'm back in Houston and it's 100 degrees, what the hell is going on? But a friend recommended that I drink water that's alkaline, high alkalinity. And so I've been looking it up, and it's like there's no real research, but here's what we think are the benefits. It's similar with playing, we've got 148 million variables here for the environment. Who knows what one variable, which is sulfur in marine fuel, really has an impact. Maybe it's right. But it's really hard to understand how it's going to have an impact until you do it.
Yeah. No, and this article actually pointed out, this is a great experiment because you had a definite change in behavior that was dramatic. Yeah. You can measure the results of what happened. And actually what it gives kind of hope to and rise to and hopefully further research to is we might be able to just reflect heat away.
That's interesting.
If we're worried about global warming, there's the guy out there that said he's come up with the white paint, that if you paint everything white, he can bounce 2% of the solar flares or whatever heat back. So,
but we don't know until we paint everything white. That's the problem.
Exactly. I don't want this. I like puce. I like mauve.
That's right.
What happened to white? All right, let's get to you teased it. Very, very, very media of you, how you teased it in the first block.
I did tease that story. It's real interesting that we're seeing petroleum engineering. It's cyclical, but we're seeing a massive drop in petroleum engineering programs, the enrollments in petroleum engineering programs at universities dropped by over 50%. So you have actually a chart here, Chuck, that we're going to try to put in.
Hopefully we'll get it popped up.
But undergraduate petroleum engineering enrollments in select U.S. universities. So UT Austin, best school in the world. I went there, of course. Change since peak, 42% down. A&M, down 63%. Isn't that a shocker? Texas Tech, 88%.
Out there. We're number one.
I know. Yeah. The School of Mines, 87.7%. LSU, 89%. Oklahoma State, 90%. What the hell's going on, Chuck?
So I have a theory on this. We always recognize that employment, like anything else in this world, is a relative thing, not an absolute thing, meaning I'm making a comparison of, do I want to do technology? Do I want to do medicine? Do I want to do oil and gas? And here's what I think's always been the problem with oil and gas is you have an incredibly volatile industry. So your downside is that you can get fired and lose your job.
Yeah.
Poster boy for that right here. Here you go.
You're not the only one, Chuck.
I know. You got fired too. So that's your downside. And I think people could actually live with that. It's just we are so slow to promote as an industry. You have to be at Exxon 27 years before you're an assistant to an assistant vice president.
Right.
That you don't have the upside. And I think technology has had certainly not the volatility we have. They've been on a good run, but they do have volatility. You do get fired. Startups don't work sometimes and all. But the flip side is you can be 24 years old and run marketing at Amazon.
Absolutely.
Or, you can be running a division of Facebook at age 28. So there's more upside. Now, I will say this. You can't put someone with 18 months experience in charge of the J field for Exxon because of the H2S everywhere.
Can I debate that? I was thinking about this because I used to be on your side on this issue. Because I used to work in a tech company. My first job out of college, I worked for a tech company, fastest growing company in the history of the world at the time. I got promoted very quickly in my early to mid 20s and was there, as you were saying. So I was early executive in my 20s. And when I came into energy, I thought, there's so much safety risk and issues here. You can't put someone young in that role. They need to be mentored and blah, blah, blah. However, having worked in a big energy company, they did not fire me, by the way. They have so many rules and safety procedures. It doesn't matter who you put in that next chair. They're not going to say, oh, ignore all the history and the learnings. So I'm like, can we really fail? I mean, do you think if we look at Macondo, is it 20-year-olds that were doing that? Or were a bunch of senior executives, many of who I know, by the way, that have been let go or sent to pasture because of these safety incidents, and they're pretty old, if you will. Okay. So I'm wondering, is that really just an excuse for the same to be the same as always, or not?
That's interesting. Okay, it's
a cultural problem, not an age problem. Whoa.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it's not that. I mean, even the dumb finance guy when he went out to the rig. If the alarm goes off, run towards the wind.
That's right.
Yeah, I picked up on that.
I mean, we hear stories from Colin all the time. Colin has more wisdom because of being out in the oil patch than anyone I've ever met, and he's seen it all. Like, if you ask him, like, someone just lost their hand, he's like, I know what to do. Yeah. I mean, so I'm not necessarily worried about the age. I think it has to do with experience, and you can get experience relatively young.
So you know what? One of my favorites, it's not an exact analogy here or exactly appropriate, but just having to do with age, is someone we know was running big data for a large company and basically hired a bunch of data scientists, including a 23-year-old. And the 23-year-old had never even put gasoline in their car, knew nothing about it. Walks in after 3 months and says, hey, if a pumper won't put their truck in reverse, they only drive forward, we will reduce operating costs by 43% and we'll reduce accidents by 77%. And everybody's like, oh, what are you talking about? No, just don't ever put it in reverse. So they actually re-engineered the pumpers' paths to never put the car in reverse. They would drive to the site and they'd drive forward out of the site, and that's what they did. And it wasn't 43%, it was like 46%. Op expenses were down, and instead of 77% of accidents, it was like 81. But I mean, somebody that knew nothing about oil and gas with just data,
amazing,
looked at it and said, okay, well, it's clear that's the toggle. And so, you know, just, okay, I'll kind of buy this. So oil and gas companies, quit being stingy, promote
no
smart
doubt.
people.
But don't look at us, some of the older guys in the room, and ignore us either.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We have some maturity and wisdom to pass on to other people. Damn it.
But I will say this ought to be issue number one for energy companies.
I will say we've been talking about this great generational crew change for a while. I think it's cyclical. So this is bad, but what are they going to do? When I went to University of Texas, I remember the petroleum engineering and the chemical engineering departments like merge. Like there wasn't really a petroleum engineering program when I was in school there because oil was in the shits.
Yeah.
And the guys that were my peers that decided to do it anyway, which we're all laughing at them, a few of those guys are billionaires now. So is there something to be said about going against, you know, the moving flow and jumping in when the time is really good opportunity? Maybe it's a great time, but what I know will happen is eventually people will run to petroleum engineering because they're going to have to pay more and more and more money for this for this content, which is why, you know, software engineers are being paid a lot of money out of undergrad if they're good, because it's a skilled resource that's in limited supply.
Well, I think it was Steve Jobs that used to say, "Run towards scarcity." So,
you said it better than anybody. Damn, Chuck, you're good.
Jobs did. I stole that. That's one of my favorite things I have in my bio. I say that I was head of product design for Apple, and that Steve Jobs once said of Chuck Yates, if Chuck Yates left, I would be reduced to wearing a black turtleneck every day. Somehow, the IPAA, the Petroleum Alliance of Oklahoma, whenever I go speak, they publish that bio.
I love
That's
it.
Great. All right. So we've got 2 retirements here we're going to discuss.
Yeah, interesting.
Let's go first with Zachary Kirkhorn, CFO of Tesla. Made it 4 years. He is retiring, and the company did not give a reason. Any thoughts there?
I think I have so much fun following Elon. It's just, he is just fun.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets rid of a guy that's been the CFO of Tesla for 4 years during a really good stability period. But clearly it sounds like he fucked up on the Cybertruck. Or someone did, because it's right before the product launch of the Cybertruck, and it sounds like they've had massive turnovers over their 20-year history, and those turnovers usually are around product launches. As we know, as a guy that's come out of a company that builds products, that doesn't surprise me, but it's interesting to know what Zach did to fuck it up. Did he miss a number? Is it like the cost of the Cybertruck, instead of, $400,000 per truck, it's $4 million per truck? I mean, it'll be interesting to see what actually happened.
It's like he was scared to wrestle the Meta CFO in
That's
the
right.
undercard.
Or that's probably the real issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Because looking at his picture, he doesn't look too tough. Now, I'm not saying that I want to fight him, because I'm not tough
We're
either.
lovers, not fighters.
We're lovers, not
here.
fighters, but he doesn't look tough to me.
Yeah, maybe
Colin
so.
could take him.
Oh yeah, totally. The thing I love about any time one of these stories comes out, because I don't have any unique insight here, but I just love reading the comments on, I guess we have to start saying X instead
On
of
X,
Twitter.
yeah.
On X. My favorite was, it's almost like faking the range data of their snake oil mobiles is a bad thing for business. So anyway, he does walk away with supposedly $50 million bucks. You can live a nice life on $50 million bucks.
So $12.5 million a year in value. Not a bad year.
Not a bad year. I would love to have $50 million because I would like to have my jet.
I know we're trying to rebuild Chuck's jet campaign.
I need a jet. And The other retirement we have is Goldman Sachs's head of commodities, Jeff Curry. He, back in 2004, wrote the famous research piece, The Revenge of the Old Economy. He basically argued that underinvestment in oil and gas is going to lead to an increase in oil prices. He was right there. He made numerous calls through the years where he was right. He kind of gets credited with the commodity super cycle. That was really his baby out of there. So, in 2015, he said the shale revolution is going to keep oil prices lower for longer. 2017 talked about Bitcoin as a commodity too. You needed it. It acts like gold. So a lot of the things he said, he was at Goldman for 27 years, and he is supposedly retiring, but he's only 56.
I mean, Chuck,
So
only
this is hedge
56.
fund, right? He's leaving for a hedge fund. He's got to be, right?
Dude, I mean, being in Nantucket, I hear people that have they all have jets except me. Of course, I'm like the guy that washes the jet windows to make a little extra cash. And I came up with a great business development strategy here in a second. But these guys are all no longer working, and they're a lot younger than 56. So I know a lot of guys that are retired because they've made their money and they don't want to work anymore. There's nothing wrong with that. What say you, Chuck?
Well, bingo.
Oh, we're looking at one.
Yeah, we're looking at one. No, I just figured out I'm fundamentally the laziest person I've ever met, so I excel at being unemployed.
You're good at
really
it.
well. This is totally my jam. Now I think you see him pop up. This red, retirement and all. It reads as popping up at a hedge fund at some point.
No doubt. No doubt.
Kudos to him. We got lectured this week.
Yeah, we did.
I'm gonna lay it on you. So our number one fan, Vlad, the Richmond police officer, sat me down this morning at coffee. Said, among other things, and he had a whole laundry list of things, he really missed the finger of the week because we haven't had a finger of the week.
It sounds like he also made fun of my glasses, which is like respect right there.
Yeah, for the audience, everybody. Go close in on Kirk's glasses right now. Vlad said, please tell me that Kirk didn't spend that much on those glasses. So,
I got them out of Target, man. Come on,
go.
dude.
All right, I like that. No, we will, starting next week, we'll be back with Finger of the Week, and we'll record the little video clip and make sure we get it put in.
Yeah, thanks for the comment, Vlad.
Yeah, exactly. really appreciate it. He's just kind of mad, because he was getting the Finger of the Week on a pretty regular basis.
We got to come up with some good ones then.
That we will. Kirk, I'm glad you're back, dude.
Great to see you. It's good. We'll miss Mark and Colin. Maybe we'll have the whole band back next week.
Maybe we can get like a little assistant to bring Mark around.
Yeah, we need someone to page him. Paging Mark
for him. Exactly. All righty, everybody. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe. Please send it to a friend of yours. We try to do the weekly summary of the energy business if you think Jim Cramer sucks.
That's right. Cheers, everyone.
Peace.